G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome to a brand new concept. We're starting a podcast here today called the Trackside Lounge. We're going to be talking all things Gran Turismo, racing and all things surrounding it. But first, couldn't have done it without Atom and Nismo. Two good mates there. How are we doing? Okay, well, I think we'll just start things off with how we're all feeling. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Gran Turismo 7 today, which is obviously a really interesting topic, releasing basically tomorrow. So we'll just grab some early thoughts and opinions from everyone that we've got here today. We'll start off with Atom. How are you feeling, mate?
Oh, yeah, it's a good place to be, mate. I'm excited. This is my first ever podcast, and I'm real keen to hit the ground running with this one. Got a awesome topic to start us off, and hopefully it's going to lead into more great stuff to follow on, and who better to do it with than you guys. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, Atom, don't flatter me. And Nismo, how are you feeling?
GT7's the first Gran Turismo that I've actually I'm picking up day one. So this is to be involved with the hype and the build up and all the little bits and pieces that you get with a day one release. It's absolutely insane, and I'm loving it. It's going to be so cool.
I'm actually the same. It's my first Gran Turismo. In fact, I think it might even be my first game I've ever pre-ordered, so pretty exciting, yeah. Definitely interested to see how the release goes. I tell you what, it snuck up pretty quickly too. I remember seeing sort of 50 days to go on Twitter, and now all of a sudden it's down to like 2, 3, or 1. But before we get into it all today, I think we'll just cover quickly what I hope this podcast can become. We're going to be covering pretty much anything and everything that's related to sim racing. You can cover anything, real-life topics, in-game topics. We can cover things like Formula 1, supercars. There's plenty of real-life stuff we can cover there. The crossover between gaming and real life, that can all be covered here too. As far as the frequency goes, it'll basically just be as we come up with a topic, basically. I don't want to take on too much. I'll see what the editing workload is like. I don't want to sort of take on a project every single week. It's going to take 5-6 hours to edit, so especially with my already limited time available. But we'll see how we go. I think we can aim for a month, every few weeks or every month. We'll see how we go from there. But obviously, as for Gran Turismo 7, she releases tomorrow, so I think we'll grab some preliminary thoughts and feelings from Atom.
Well, I'll be honest, the hype's kind of faded a little bit up until today, and now I'm like, oh, it's coming tomorrow. But I've been excited for it since it was first announced, and I've kept a very close eye on all the stuff that came out for it, so the advertising, the trailers, the state of play, all the little videos they put on like Twitter that had like the squiggly lines that actually formed a track map. I thought those were really cool, but I was following all of that, keeping an eye on it, and then the last like week or so, the hype kind of faded a bit for me. But today, I've seen Super GT's just put out a video this morning at the time of recording, and he's done a review of the game. The game looks awesome. I'm super excited, and I cannot wait to get into it at midnight tonight. As far as new content and stuff that I'm hoping for or expecting to see, it looks like there's a lot of really good changes that have come along for Gran Turismo 7 that have reflected what the community's kind of responded with for Gran Turismo Sport. It is looking a bit like they've basically taken Gran Turismo Sport, updated the physics, added some tracks, and added a fully fledged campaign. But we'll see where it goes, and when we first get into it, I suppose. We're less than 12 hours away here in New Zealand from getting into it for the first time, so pretty keen to get cracking on it for sure.
And you're streaming it. You're streaming it, if I'm not mistaken, aren't you, from midnight?
I am. So midnight launch tonight, which is like 10 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight and 9 p.m. Standard. So like New Zealand's the first in the world to get it. Obviously, the reviewers and other people of kind of higher status than me have already played it and reviewed it and are putting content out, as well as people who live in America and shop with Amazon because Amazon decided to distribute their copies early for some reason. Apparently it's not the first time as well, but a few people got their copies early, and a couple of people who did receive those copies actually broadcasted it ahead of time as well. So I will no longer be the first person to stream it in the world, but I will be one of the first, and I'll definitely be the first legitimate non-reviewer, non-creator. Well, I'm not a creator, but a non-reviewer, non-official representative of Gran Turismo to stream it. So I'm pretty hyped for it. Sure.
And you'll be one of the first to have full game access. You'll be able to delve into multiplayer online play, which I think was pretty limited for those who actually got the game early from Amazon. So that'll be unique. You'll definitely have a good few people.
Yeah, the online has been. It looks like it's hidden away until you unlock it a little bit, based on what I've seen. But yeah, it's very, very exciting for sure.
Definitely, online would have been pretty limited if the only people you could play with were the people that ordered it off Amazon. So
yeah. I think maybe we can talk about that a little, like getting a game early from Amazon. In this case, Gran Turismo 7, obviously. Do you reckon it's fair that some of those content creators sort of got their streams and videos sort of taken down or claimed for whatever reason? You know, do you think that's fair? Personally, I don't think it is, but I'll be keen to hear your opinions.
I kind of agree with you that it's not fair to take them down. I think they were within their rights to remove it under a strike because the game technically remains the property of Polyphony Digital, I would imagine, at this point. And they have actually locked people, like from what I've seen, they've locked people who've already received the game but aren't reviewers out of the game. So if you got your Amazon copy a week ago, and right now the game still hasn't technically released, you can't play it right now. Even if you have the physical copy, you are locked out. So they've counteracted that, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think it's a bit of a grey area when it comes to taking down the streams and things like that. But the fact that they have now shut down the game for anyone until release was kind of the best thing they could do. They couldn't really retract anything. A couple of creators have seriously benefited from that. Like, I think a couple of guys went up by like 400 or 500 followers on Twitch, those who were streaming it. There was one guy who kind of got away with it a little bit longer than the rest, and he was very successful with it. But, you know, and more power to them. Like, it's not their fault they received the game early. I feel like you're kind of in a moral, do you or can you? You probably shouldn't stream it if you receive it early because you know that the game's not out yet. But they're not bound by an embargo, and again, it's not their fault they received it. So
again, it is, as you just said, it's not their fault. They haven't done anything malicious, or, you know, there was no corruption or anything that got the game into their hands any sooner than they had ordered. But like you said, Atom, it does remain the property of Polyphony, and, you know, it's unfair for the rest of the people who don't have a... So, like you said, there's sort of points for and against both sides, so it is definitely a very, very grey area. So, like all things, there'll be people that have one opinion and people that have the other, but I guess the way they've done it at the moment is pretty much the one of the better ways they could have gone about it. Let's put it that way.
I think that's all they really could have done without risking anything, any sort of backlash. Like, you know, the damage is done. It's not major damage. It's not a massive deal. They can't reprimand the people who did it because there's no real grounds for them to do it, but they've done everything they can to make sure the game release goes ahead as planned.
Kaz will certainly be having a few words with Jeff Bezos.
I don't know how much weight Kaz has compared to Jeff Bezos.
No, they definitely need translator Sam to help that one out.
Ooh, yep.
I think Jeff Bezos probably, like, no offense to Kaz is great and he's built a great empire, but if it came to a 1v1 argument between Kaz and Jeff would probably turn around and walk away and say, just don't sell your stuff on our platform.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where I was going to go with it. I think the problem probably lies more with Amazon, to be honest, than the people that actually receive the game early. But yeah, no, it's not their fault they got the game early, of course, but the moral question, of course, is there, do you stream it? But,
well, I say, there's probably immense difficulty in coordinating delivery of a pre-ordered product on the day of release while loading up the trucks with the product ahead of time so that you have it ready so there's no hiccups on the day. Because if you pre-order GT 7 on Amazon and release day comes around and you don't receive your copy, you're going to be fuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have to load the truck up early to get those deliveries prepared and ready to go and have that dispatch sorted for the one day. But and I can see why the mistake would then happen, that they just get delivered early. They load it onto a truck, and the truck driver doesn't realise that truck is to be delayed for a week. He's just going to deliver
it. Wouldn't even be the truck driver's problem. It'd be, this is your truck for today, mate. Off you go. Go and deliver that stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone got in trouble for doing it. Like, I wonder if there was any internal, like, oh, this is on you.
I think.
I find the blame. See, I'm the same, because my copy of GT7 got pre-ordered back in September with EB Games, and they didn't even take my money until like yesterday or the day before. So I would I would like to think that I'll be getting my copy tomorrow, but yeah, like you say, Atom, if it's much later than release date, people get very agitated very fast. So especially with a game that has such a hype and such a following, like it's one of Gran Turismo's, like one of PlayStation's like biggest franchises. So
yeah, it's a console seller big time, and that's exactly right about getting your product out on time. You want it on day one because you pre-ordered it, and it's again going back to that difficulty thing with regards to getting it on the day but no earlier and no later. Like there's major problems with the shipping industry. The shipping industry at the moment has so many problems already just because of COVID. Like everything is delayed.
There's more too. I don't know if anyone watching has heard about like the flooding in Queensland. That's where I am. I'm sort of right in the heart of it. There's flooding in my suburb, or there was. It's gone down since. But some parts of my city are still completely cordoned off by floodwater. It's impacting everything. Like supermarkets have no food. Staff members can't get to work because the roads are closed. I'd imagine that would be impacting sort of shipping and logistics immensely. And honestly, I was watching all the flooding going on in the news, and it did cross my mind. I was like, is my game going to be ready? Because it may very well not be. But
you're going to arrive. You don't know.
Yeah, I would like to think. I would like to think that my retailer has sort of had the game for a little while. Making sure they're ready to pick.
If Amazon delivered them a week ago, then they would have had them for up to a week prior. So I imagine the copies were all distributed to their retailers well and truly on time. But then it's a question of then getting it logistically to the addresses of all the customers. And if you live in a flooded area, you're not receiving your Gran Turismo 7. Sorry, the courier will not make it to your door.
Yeah, no, you can't even go to the shop and buy bloody apples, let alone get Gran Turismo.
And the problem with like physical, so my pre-order was supposed to be, I came and picked it up from EB Games, but because of the COVID situation in September, obviously we were only just hearing the word Omicron for the first time. It has to be couriered to me, and nothing I can't even ring them up and say, hey, look, can I just come pick it up? And that isn't a thing. But the problem with a physical game is that you get it, that's great, it's in your hand, you're going to be downloading and updating for the next 12 or so hours anyway. So getting it release day doesn't necessarily mean you'll be playing it release day, and that's a very big...
I think the ultimate solution here is maybe on the console or, the game servers, wherever you play the game, is locked out until midnight on release day, or 12:01, whatever it is, on release day, but then the actually receiving the game in your hands is not necessarily bound by a date. So you can receive the disc early, like that can probably even go for pre-orders. You can pick up your pre-order a couple of days before, put the disc in, but then it's locked out. Like maybe it lets you load into the game. Maybe it lets you load the game up on the console. As Nismo said, it can probably take 12 hours maybe, and it probably will. 110 gigabytes, it's massive.
It's a big boy, and there's already a big day one patch out, apparently.
Absolutely.
It has been patched,
well, there you go. It's going to be a long time. So I think the ultimate solution would be give customers the opportunity to get the games in their hand early, but actually lock out the gameplay until 12:01 a.m. on release day.
That way you can carry out the software side of things ahead of time, just like if you bought a digital copy. Like I've had this downloaded for a week.
It should be exactly like a digital copy. You put the disc in or whatever. I just realised I don't have a disc PS5. Oh, hang on a minute. That's a bit awkward.
What?
Oh, mate.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
You gave me a heart attack.
No, do you not know the pre-order, Atom? The pre-order is a code for PS5. The disc for PS5 and the code for PS4, and you can literally just download It's all good. It's sorted. Like.
All right. Okay.
Oh dear.
For a second, got him.
You had us both for a second.
No. Look, I can show you. I can show you the disc slot on my PS5 if you want.
It's okay. We believe you.
Did you get the hard case?
I did get the steelbook. So
that's one thing that I'm sad that I don't get. That's the one thing I want.
So, going a little off topic here, Gran Turismo 6 is actually the only Gran Turismo game that I don't have a physical copy of. Everything else, I've got 1, 2, 3, 5 prologue. I've got all the other ones except for 6. Oh,
I have the GT Sports Steelbook, as you can see.
Hey.
Oh, hello.
But I'm actually bidding on a GT6, on a copy of GT6 Steelbook on TradeMe at the moment. And
wow.
I think it's up to $20. So, might just have to spend the big bucks and that'd be cool.
Yeah, you get the whole collection. Yeah, I was stoked with the Steelbook when I first got GT Sport when it came out. And I would like to get the Steelbook for GT7, but I can't really justify buying the game twice, and I had to prioritize getting it for a midnight release.
Yeah, I was considering buying the digital copy, but because I was like, oh yeah, what is it, like $70 or whatever? It's $140 on the PlayStation Store. I was like, yeah, I just can't. I'm not that rich, I'm not getting that Twitch money, so unfortunately.
I went the whole hog, $150, 25th anniversary steelbook. I think I got. I don't even.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm getting. That's the one that I'm getting. Yeah, but it's physical and.
Well, actually, going back to pre-orders for GT7, I haven't heard anyone talk yet about the bonus content you get with your pre-order, which nobody's got. Nobody's actually got it yet. Who's already gone into the game? None of the reviews will talk about it. None of the early access Amazon customers will have gone into it. But you get a Yaris with your nation's livery on it, which I'm super hyped for.
Yeah,
because I get a Yaris with a black and white New Zealand livery, and that is like, I don't know if you saw Matthew McEwen's New Zealand livery on his X 2019.
Yeah,
but it was so good. Yeah, and Simon Bishop as well. He got one on the Aston DBR9.
DBR9, yes, and even as recently as McEwen with the Roadsters at Bathurst.
Roadsters and Ford GT as well.
And Ford GT, yeah,
Ford GT Group 3.
He was in the race, wasn't he? Yeah, he was too. That's right. Yeah,
he got 2 at the World Finals this year.
Do you reckon? Okay, Smok, you're the resident Australian.
Hello.
Do you reckon that the Australian Nations Cup car should be green and yellow instead of blue and red?
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent question.
I think there should be some element on there. I think the current livery at the moment it pays homage more to the flag of the nation, which I think makes sense for what they're trying to do. But in terms of like the essence of Australia, like you think of Australia, you think of green and gold, obviously. I think that somewhere out there is a designer that can make the blue, the red, the green and the gold all look good on the car. And like, even if the green and the gold are just like accent colours or whatever, I definitely think there's more to add to that Australia livery there, because it looks like a flag on the car at the moment, which I guess is kind of similar to all the other nations, but I don't know whether some other nations sort of have those alternative colours, like to what green and gold is to Australia, sort of thing.
Couple of them do, and I'm just as excited as you are to see a gold and green Aussie livery on a car, because, and I'm not even Australian, but I want to see it. Because like that's what you'd expect to see on a South African car as well, because they have similar colours, I think, as their mains. And I was going to say, you've never seen a what do you call them, the Wallabies, the Aussie rugby team wearing something that's not green or yellow. Yeah. Those are the colours of the country, same as black and white are the colours of New Zealand.
Exactly.
I think Chile is the only other country that I've seen with a livery on their Nations Cup car that doesn't specifically reflect their flag. Chile is the only one, I think, and I think maybe Italy or Hungary might be the same as well. one of them, because they share the same 3 colours.
Yeah.
So they've got different liveries.
Yeah.
That's the same reason for why I think New Zealand got the black and white treatment, is because New Zealand and Australia's cars would look exactly the same if it was just the flag.
Yeah, it would only serve to like confuse us even more than already.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually answer my question, Mike. Would you prefer the blue and red or the green and yellow?
I don't think I would prefer a green and yellow as a whole car, as a complete replacement. I would definitely... I'm sort of giving you a non-answer here. I would definitely just prefer to sort of see maybe a mix of the current livery with some green and gold aspects on there, I think. Because I think it's possible to make it look good. You just got to make sure to tastefully add those different colours and make sure they don't clash.
You'd make a good politician with that answer.
I was going to say, he's the politician answer. I love it. Love it.
So back to the other pre-order... stuff you get with the pre-order, bonus content.
Yeah.
You get the RX Vision Shadow Edition, which is something that looks very cool to me.
I give it about 2 weeks, and you're already going to see replica liveries anyway. So that's a bit of a non. It's a bit of a non thing, really.
Yeah, I suppose.
Special liveries, especially with a livery editor as accessible and yet like awesome as Gran Turismo's, you can't really do special liveries anymore, because people are just going to make, people that don't have that content are just going to do a livery on the regular car anyway. And same with the Nation's Yaris.
Yeah, it's the same with the Olympic Supra as well. Like I've got an Olympic livery on my second account on the Supra Group 3, and I didn't earn that. I just found it and put it on the car, and it looks like I competed in the Olympics now.
Yeah,
it's got a Japanese flag on the bonnet, but
you remember when the Toyota Supra Group 4 was given to those people that did the survey?
Yeah,
I didn't get that.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I got an Atom. Yeah,
I wasn't playing at the time. I wasn't even playing.
Literally, I think it was like the next week you saw the same livery, but it was on the regular Supra.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take long. It does not take long.
People are always going to make those sorts of liveries.
Yeah.
Like that.
All right.
Yeah, and I've also noticed just quietly on that Group 4 Supra, that Group 4 Supra is in GT7, along with other mileage exchange cars like the safety cars.
I like that. I
do like that.
I do like that the mileage exchange is extinct, because really it was obsolete like after within the year it was already like everyone had everything. So
because it's so easy. I mean, I think what was the main function of it, to get like different wheels and colours and stuff for your livery?
Wheels and wheels, and unique vehicles too.
For the first, I think it was 2-3 months. It was obviously because the road cars hadn't been like rotated yet through, so it was a new car every time. Oh my gosh, it's the Mustang. Oh my gosh, it's the RCZ. It was cool. But then once everyone has, and I think they only had like 6 or 7 colors per car. So within a year, everyone had like every car in every color. So
and
the safety cars were a nice touch. Like they sort of breathed a bit new life into it. But even then, that got old pretty quick.
I'm sure it encouraged some casual or more casual players to spend more time on the game to earn the mileage points to purchase some of those things. Like
if you mean spend more time in the game, you mean just do more laps around Route X, because you see it all the time. All those lobbies of just people. And I'll admit, I'm not dogging them. I have done that once or twice because I needed to like get mileage to upgrade my $20 million cars. But like, even right now, I'm sure if you fired up Gran Turismo right now, there would be at least 4 or 5 lobbies of people doing just 200 laps around Route X. Like, it's just,
For sure.
On the topic of... Oh, sorry, go Mike.
No, I was just going to say, I see the mileage exchange didn't really excite me. I liked the cars in there, but sort of like you said, I'd often find I go in there, and the cars that have rotated through, I already have them. And then your only alternative to spend the points on is paint colours and wheels, and I'm not a livery guy. Doesn't interest me to sit there for hours and make a livery with all these special colours on it. So it was definitely a bit obsolete for me. So I'm not mad that we don't have that.
Yeah.
I wonder where they're gonna allow you to purchase colours from for your liveries now, or if they're just going to be included.
They have referenced, so because they're transferring all the liveries across from GT Sport and all the designs, they have said that if you are downloading a design that has a different color or like a special color on it, you have to have the credits to buy it. So it's implying, I suppose, that you'll just buy paints outright.
I think
it's paint shop.
I think it's going to be in the livery editor, because I remember a shot in the state of play. It was like scrolling through like a big list of colors. Like I forget what the car was, but it was like a massive list of colors. It'd tell you the name of the color and then also the manufacturer that pioneered the color, and it'd have like all their manufacturer names, and like that's where we saw carbon fiber as a paint option. Obviously, just the body style there, but I think that's going to be in the livery editor rather than in a separate spot like mileage exchange in GT Sport.
They should do wraps.
Yeah,
wraps,
carbon fiber wrap, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a livery guy, so none of that interests me whatsoever. I'll let the livery blokes do the liverying.
More of a livery guy, but I'm not the. Yeah. You're not going to see any like intricate anime designs from me. So.
I love and respect all anime livery. I used the wrong word.
Don't edit that out, mate.
All livery creators.
Correct.
My words are all getting muddled up. The livery creators who are very good at what they do, I have massive respect for them. So, and because I could never do it, I'm just not artistic enough. I'm not capable of doing what they do. So they're a huge part of the Gran Turismo community, and without them, the game would not look anywhere near as good as it does, and allow people to drive in cars that look as good as they do. So I'm thankful that they exist, and I hope to get a whole lot of awesome livery in Gran Turismo 7.
Here's an idea I've just thought of. How good would it be if you put, like, if you find a livery on the Discover section or whatever, put it on your car, maybe then somewhere on the screen it can say, like, livery by and then the tag of the person that created the livery. I don't know where they would put it, but I think it would be good to have that on there somewhere.
That's exactly what doesn't Forza Horizon like already do that? If you buy a car, you can like download a livery and you can download a setup, and it tells you who did what. So
I think there needs to be that, because as you know, I'm sure you've seen what I do. I grab a livery. I don't take note of who makes it. I just, you know, if it comes up in conversation when I'm doing my commentary or whatever, I'll say, oh, you know, I didn't make the livery, I just found it. But I always think when I'm saying that, I was like, I need to give credit to the people.
They deserve the credit, they do.
To actually, you know, show my appreciation for the person that made it. Because at the moment, there's no way. You just put a livery on the car and that's it. The livery's on the car. Who made it? I don't know. It's a very easy system for the person driving the car to just say they made the livery even though they didn't.
Yeah.
There is quite a large community of livery creators who all support each other kind of deal. Like, you see a lot of good liveries with comments all down the side of it. This isn't on sport. Comments all down the side of it that say, nice work, I liked and reposted.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's on almost every good livery that I've ever seen. So there's a lot of people in sport that build each other's liveries up. So that credit does go around a little bit. It's just you and I perhaps don't think about that when we do it. I generally, when I save a livery for use, because I don't really do that a lot anymore because I have team liveries. But when I do, on my second account, for example, I always like the livery. And then save it, but I should really repost it. So I might make that a habit to do that, because, you know, I'm getting this cool livery out of it. I should show it to other people. I think it's good.
I'm the same. I don't repost, but I always like. I make sure to like, but I never repost.
Yeah. So I think I'll start reposting.
Yeah.
Good guy, Atom. I recently come across a guy on GT Sport who did liveries that were like Group 4 or Group 3 liveries, but put on the regular car. So, like, for example, the Alpha 4C Group 4, but it's on the regular Alpha 4C, and it looks identical, but because it doesn't have a spoiler and doesn't have a, you know, tow hook and all that sort of stuff. And and he did them for like the Aston and the Alpha and the Mitsubishi.
That's cool. That's a cool idea.
He just basically did the whole roster, and I was like, dude, that has to be so much effort. So I'm pretty sure I reposted like more than a few of his designs, because I was I was thoroughly impressed. And even to this day, if I'm like practicing for a race, like Alsace recently in the Road to GT7. I picked a Mazda, and I was like, "Oh, why isn't it letting me into the game?" And it wasn't even the Group 4; it was the like N200. I was like, he bamboozled me. He got me good.
I think
He did get ya.
there's a decent side hustle in livery making as like a side job. I don't know if you guys know who Azabear is.
I've heard of him. I've heard you talk about him.
He's argued to be one of the best livery creators in the game, and I think he actually was signed up by PD to make the livery for the Red Bull Beat the Pros on the Honda NSX. I think he was responsible for the livery. Yep. So he, if you don't know anything about him, he does liveries for free. If you ask him, but he also does contracted work, I suppose it is, where he makes liveries for teams. I think VQS, Vanquish Esports, was one of them, among others. I think Williams was one of the other ones too. And I believe the teams do pay him a small amount for liveries, and that gives them priority over the free ones, because I got a couple off him actually, on my Supra and my 86 for the main season of last year. He made them, and I didn't pay for them. They ended up taking a while because he had to prioritize the paid orders. And when I asked him about how much it would be for a livery, it sounds like generally across the board, when you go to a good livery creator, you're looking at $5 to $10 for a livery, which is not much. And that's not a lot of money for the work that goes into a livery. But if you were to smash out a couple of liveries every week, you'd build up a little bit of money over time to just like have that, as a side thing. So if people started charging, if the really good livery creators started charging money for work like that, they could potentially make a lot of money in Gran Turismo 7, because there's going to be a lot of players coming in. That would be really cool if the livery creators of the game started earning what they're worth, if you know what I mean.
I don't suppose you guys, I mean, you said it yourself, you guys aren't livery guys, but on some of the like Gran Turismo Facebook pages that I'm in, and sort of around the place, there's been a bit of a idea that maybe livery, so if you create a livery, and if 100 people download it and use it or whatever, they reckon you should maybe get some sort of like in-game reward, whether you get like a credit,
okay,
or some sort of recognition that, hey, you've made a livery, it's a Red Bull livery or Castrol livery, I don't know, something that's popular, something that people like, obviously, and they're using it, then you should get some sort of credit payout, or maybe a bonus. I can't really say mileage points because the mileage exchange is going. Like you get the point.
I know what you mean.
Sort of in-game credit
recognition. Yeah,
I totally agree.
I think that's a good idea, actually.
I do think on that though, that for that to work, they need to improve the discovery.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the discovery in GT Sport.
We talked about what we hope to see in Gran Turismo 7 a little bit before. We didn't really go into it, but if I'm going to name one thing that I think that they should change for Gran Turismo 7, that's the Discover tab. You need to be able to find stuff.
Yes. I have no idea why they separate the... I look for liveries, that's what I do. I've no idea why they separate it into different timestamps. Like, if no liveries were made within a specific time, it just shows you 0. Like, why? Can't it just show a list in chronological order? It's like... You don't go onto Facebook or whatever and see a load of blank screen where nobody posted content. You just see everyone's content one after the other. You scroll. It's not like you go onto TikTok and you go, oh, look, no TikToks were posted by this creator for 2 days, so you're going to have 2 days worth of empty screen. It doesn't make sense.
Nobody
does not make sense
today. Sorry, go away. Yeah.
Here's a white screen.
Like all things, I think we need to wait for GT7 to actually release, because they might well have already done that. So we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Give it a few days, give it a week or whatever, and then complain. It's
the exact kind of thing that I don't think reviewers are going to cover.
No.
It's definitely something that players have to find out in the coming days as to whether the Discover is just going to be chronological. Just all of them are there in the order from most recent to latest. You can just scroll down endlessly.
Would that be your solution, Smock? Would it be to just have one big long page of all the liveries ever made that you scroll through?
No. It would still have like filters similar to the search feature we have, but instead of just it being separated out into individual time windows, it would just be a list. Because I don't know about you. If sometimes I look for tags, so I might tag like I don't know, Lewis Hamilton or whatever, or LH44 or whatever, to see if there are any really good Mercedes liveries, but people aren't making them all the time, so you might have 3, 4, 5, 6 days of no content, and that equates to what, 3 blank pages before you even find one, and then someone makes one, you're just shown that one, whereas it would be a lot better just to show all the liveries that have the tag in one list. I think that would be better, and then you can narrow it down by car or whatever.
They should change these slots from being from this day to this day, to being from number this to number this. Like it shows 50 liveries on the page.
Yes.
Next page, next 50 liveries.
Yeah.
And you should also be able to pick, like, do you want to see the 50 latest liveries? Do you want to see the 50 highest ranked liveries?
Should give you some sort features, like your regular most
an
liked
search engine. It needs to be like
just a normal search engine.
And it needs some synonyms as well. So, like, if you're looking up F1, then it can assume that you're also maybe looking for Lewis Hamilton, or maybe you're looking for Red Bull, or like it's that sort of like related searches thing, because the current discovery system is very particular. So if you're trying to look for a tag, you have to spell it, you have to format it the exact same way that it was posted, otherwise you're not going to get it. So definitely need some sort of like related search.
There's improvements to be had there for sure.
Something else I wanted to cover, I don't know if you guys have seen this, because this is very, very recent. Gran Turismo and the Antisocial Social Club collab.
I did see a thumbnail about that, but I didn't watch it.
I saw a video on YouTube this morning. I just saw the thumbnail, I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
I didn't realise Antisocial Social Club was still a thing.
Yeah, neither, but so basically...
I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest.
This particular video, you don't need to watch it, you're not missing much. All it is a reskinned Toyota Supra GT500, so the Castrol Supra, reskinned with an Antisocial Social Club livery, and it's basically just announcing, it says here, Gran Turismo and Antisocial Social Club team up for a collaboration featuring real-life and in-game items. And I don't know if you guys remember Gran Turismo 5, but back in Gran Turismo 5, there was a Camaro. There was a promotion they did with, I think it was called Edge. It was like a shaving cream or something, Edge Special or something. And you could buy a can of the shaving cream, and it came with a voucher code, and you would get this special Camaro. And it was a very unique, very special, like if someone's got that car in their garage right now, then like it's that rare. So I think that's pretty much just the same thing. It's going to be some sort of buy a product and you'll get this nice. It's a nice livery too. It's a. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's a pink one.
Yeah, I saw the livery briefly. I also saw, as part of their marketing as well, similar to the Antisocial Social Club thing that they've posted, they did a video with a couple of influential people, including Adam LZ and Sung Kang, who plays Han in Fast and Furious. Which I was stoked about. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. There wasn't really much to see in it. I think it was definitely geared towards the casuals, as most of the marketing has been. But they're clearly going pretty hard on the marketing at this point.
Yeah.
Well, they have to be. They have to be.
I saw that same thing that you were talking about, Atom, and the first thing that came to my mind is this is almost a real-life version of what they want the GT Cafe to be. It was like just people sitting down sharing their experiences or whatever. It was like if the GT Cafe and GT7 was a real thing, that's what it would be. Which I don't know, I found that interesting. I did find that a bit interesting. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what direction they're going to take with that. Like, what is the point of it? But I guess it's just a marketing thing. Because then all those content creators can then say, hey, look, I'm on GT7. Make sure you buy the game or whatever, and they'd have immense followings, all of those people.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those, and the other thing is that I see a lot of people going, oh, it's too similar to GT Sport, and it is, but see, the problem what everyone's forgetting is that GT Sport's not Gran Turismo.
Nah.
It wasn't. And if not for the pandemic, we would have had GT7 like 2 years ago. It was supposed to launch 2020, if you remember right.
Wow.
So basically, GT Sport has been sort of like GT7 Prologue, in that it's a cut down sort of, not bare bones, but not a true Gran Turismo title with the career and the progression and all that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just easy to forget that we've had to deal with GT Sport for 2 years more than we were going to, thanks to the pandemic and thanks to the delays.
I don't know that.
It was supposed to be 2020. The only reason it got delayed, and I have a reputable source on this one, the only reason it got delayed was because they obviously had to travel to scan tracks and cars and all that. And at the start of the pandemic, when like travel was just no, like everyone was scared of Corona, everyone was scared because it was a new thing, and rightly so. I'm not poo-pooing, the reactions, but
no, of course,
like that was why it got delayed. So
I believe it's for the better that GT7 is being released now.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I think it's a better time
very
to do it.
Polished.
It's given them
very
2
polished.
years to nail it down, and I think they have.
Yeah. Have you seen the screenshots? There's literally a thing of GT7 when it was shown in 2020 versus GT7 like when it was shown the other day, and it's night and day, mate. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, well, I think that's good. I think they made the right choice there. And going on what you were saying before, Nismo, about like people forgetting that Sport was not a real Gran Turismo, I definitely don't see too many similarities between Sport and 7, because I watched Super GT's review yesterday, and there seems to be a much bigger emphasis placed on the single player. There's a lot in single player, and I would start to argue there's more to do in single player than there is online, because from what we've been given so far, the online looks pretty similar to what was in GT Sport already, just with way more single player content.
My opinion on the current state of GT7 is they've created GT7 and it's got a DLC content of GT Sport in there.
Yeah.
Like the offline comes first. That's what it's about. It may use similar physics and look similar to GT Sport, but it is not GT Sport. You will be able to transfer over from GT Sport to GT7 quite easily.
Yeah.
But GT7 is a love letter to GT4. I firmly believe that that's what they've gone to emulate. GT4 is one of the most loved installments in the Gran Turismo franchise. People loved it. It went platinum in like the first couple of days when it first sold, and people still play it to this day. They still love it, and I think they've really tried to emulate the success they had with Gran Turismo 4 by creating the most similar game they can with Gran Turismo 7, just without like half the cars, I guess.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm disappointed about with Gran Turismo 7 in regards to that car list is I can't go into GT7 and save up money and buy my real life car that I've got on my driveway. I can't buy my car because it's not in the game. They don't have enough cars, but I believe they will come as well.
I'm still hanging out for a Pulsar just quietly. As soon as they drop me Pulsar, I can have all my money. I had a really good point there, and now I'm thinking about Pulsars. God damn it!
Sorry, I kept interrupting you while you were trying to speak as well.
No, it's all good. I just remembered. So one of the other things too is like they've already confirmed, of course, that the entire car list from GT Sport is coming into GT7.
I think there were a couple missing. I think there were a couple of VGTs not coming, but
give or take,
they're much of a muchness, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. I think VGTs are going to come into it a bit more now that Group X and all the N-class groups are gone. But we'll get back to that one. My point is, okay, so 99% of the cars are coming to GT7.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter because the sheer amount of customization and tuning and mods that you can do to your cars, like, I'm still going to buy an 86 and see what I can do to it. I'm still going to buy a Supra, and I'm still going to buy an R35 and all those cars in sport that I have a bazillion of. But in GT7, you can actually you can wide body them, you can give them sport. So it gives the entire car roster like still a fresh flavor, a fresh feel.
It's still going to be a
Absolutely.
blast in that way, and I think part of the reason why the car list is so small compared to GT4 is that a game like this, when it comes out, is used by the car manufacturers that are featured in it to sell their vehicles, which means that we're realistically, unless it's a classic, we're only going to get relatively recent cars to use. So that's why you're seeing, post 2010, mostly vehicles like your Honda Fit and your Suzuki Swift and that sort of thing. Those are your starter cars. You start off with a hatchback of some kind, or so we've been told. That's the sort of car you start off with. Whereas in GT4, which I said before, this is Gran Turismo's love letter to GT4. You started off with a 1990s hatchback, a Pulsar, like you're saying. You couldn't buy a 2000s car. You had to buy from the used car market and buy 80s and 90s cars, because that was when the game was released. It was when those cars were still relatively new. And that was like, the 90s, of course, was a golden era for Japanese vehicle manufacturing. There was so many different sports models and makes and trims released in that period of time. So there was obviously so many different cars to choose from. Whereas now, we see a couple of sports car a year. Like Toyota's been making waves, obviously, recently with the GR Yaris, the GR Supra, the GR86. But name me one other manufacturer, apart from, say, Mercedes or BMW, who make, borderline supercars vehicles. Name one other company other than Toyota that's recently made a sports car that's, less than 100 grand or less than 200 grand.
I think the Mustang's still pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose the Mustang's probably one.
Possibly. I think the other thing too is when GT Sport launched, you got to remember how big were those monthly updates. Like, we were getting like 10 plus cars a month. So
I don't know, bro. I wasn't playing at the time.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is, because of the pandemic, and we've had to basically, we've been stuck with GT Sport for 2 years longer than they intended. So I think we're going to launch, we're going to enjoy the game, and then we're going to remember just how spoiled we were with the monthly updates. And that's easy to forget, because again, it's been 2 years, man, like 2 years. So yeah, it's going to be awesome just to see if they continue with that sort of monthly support, or even every other month. I'm not going to be like every where's my cars, but it would be awesome to see a current Gran Turismo game getting the current support, because
they have said they're going to support it pretty well.
Absolutely,
yeah.
I think I think with the frequency of those updates at the start of sport as well. Overall, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is the car list doubled? Has the car list doubled in size?
More than doubled, I think.
More than doubled? Yeah.
I think with... Hold on, I gotta fact check this.
While you check that fact, don't forget as well, when it comes to updates, we received an update with a new car on Gran Turismo Sport 4.5 years into its life cycle.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's been supported all the way through to the end. That's the GR86 I'm talking about, that we got real late on, halfway through the main season of 2021.
And it's only natural that support is going to drop off over time as well, because they have to focus on the next one. If we continue to have early day support, like the support we got in the early life of Gran Turismo Sport, all the way up until today, GT7 just simply wouldn't be ready.
I imagine they're going to get a whirlwind of support over the first year.
There we go. So, Gran Turismo Sport launched with 168 cars and 29 tracks.
There you go.
Post-launch game updates up to the count to 324 cars.
I think people forget that the car list has more than doubled since it released. Like, that's an insane amount of support. And like, I think what kind of has put people into that mindset is that, you get 10 cars per update, it goes down to 9, goes down to 7, down to 5, 3, 1. People are like, oh, we're not getting any cars. But over the course of the game...
a lot of cars.
That's a lot of cars, yeah. It's just the frequency, I think.
What bugs me about the people that complain like that, they say, oh, they're not giving us any cars anymore. It's like, you can't tell me that you've driven each and every single car enough for all of them to become stable. Like,
yeah.
You're not.
I think haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate. People are always going to complain. It takes. I think it takes a particularly reasonable person to stand back, look at it objectively, and go, okay, well, the car list has doubled. That's a lot of cars. They're not going to make every single car that I like. They're going to make. They're going to try and appeal to the widest range of people they can. So, like a supercar guy getting a Honda Fit and an update, they're not going to be happy with that. But so they're not really entitled to complain, because there's also going to be cars that they get. They're going to get a supercar and an update that a hatchback guy is not going to like. So, they're just appealing to everybody. People are always going to complain. And the other point I was going to make before is that Nismo touched on it as well. We have 420? 420 cars in GT7 to start with. All of them are going to have, or I don't know if it's all, but I think we can safely assume most of them are going to have upgrades, wide body kits, parts to add to the car, engine upgrades. There's going to be a lot to do on each of the cars. And with 420 of them, people are going to be kept very busy.
Sorry, the other thing that bugs me about the car list, well, just car lists in general, right? So when Gran Turismo, GT5 launched, and on the cover it said over 1,000 cars. Mm-hmm. Over 1,000 cars, that's cool. Probably about 800 or so of them were just directly ported from Gran Turismo 4.
Yeah.
So they were PS2 graphics, they were standard interiors, they were low poly, it was ridiculous. And people still use that as an argument piece. Like, you see on Twitter, Gran Turismo 5 had 1,000 cars, it's so much better. But, this is 420 odd, entirely rendered,
high quality,
super premium, So
with parts,
like you're saying, with customization, with wide bodies, with
whole new tuning.
And that's coming from that is coming from a person that is not overly excited by car customization in general, but I can still look at it and go, no, that's a big feature. A lot of people are interested in that. It would be selfish of me to then complain about it just because I'm not interested in it. It's not a game for me. It's a game for everyone.
Did we confirm if the DeLorean is in the game on that note?
Oh, hello. I think it's going to be... Well, actually, I wanted to talk about this. They've split the post-2001 cars into Brent Central, and then the ones before 2001 somewhere else. I think it's going to be the used car dealership.
I was going to say, I think it's the used car dealership, because
there might be something else for classic cars, like the classic
what's it called? The
cafe?
Museum?
Yeah, the museum.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which is interesting, because it's, what is their definition of classic? Because if you remember, the R32 Skyline was seen in there, and that's not exactly, a vintage car. It's a classic car.
I'm sure to the Japanese audience and population, it probably is.
But I'm saying it's
certainly going that way.
We're obviously not going by age, though. We're obviously not going by purely age, because
it'd be status too, I reckon.
It'll be status, but I think also they might be going by age, because by definition, if a vehicle is over 25 years old, it is considered a classic. So, and the R32 GTR is over 25 years old.
Yeah.
Well, the first edition certainly would be.
Yeah.
I think the R33 is bordering on 25 years old, so it's getting to that point too. But that might be their cutoff, 25 years. So that may be why we're seeing that in the museum.
Yeah, quite possibly. But it's just like you say, 3 different dealerships for 3 different distinct classes of vehicle. It's going to be interesting. And also the used car dealership, is it going to be on rotation every day, every week, every race? Because again, Gran Turismo 5, the used car dealership replenished every race. So you do one race, you come back, and it's a new list. So
a race counted as a day, didn't it?
Yeah. So,
which makes sense. You wouldn't do more than one race in one day.
But the thing is,
track.
Yeah, well, that's true. But because it's such a connected, online-focused game, as much as there's a single-player side, but it might be one of those ones where it's a daily rotation, a real daily rotation, not just at every race. So troll through the lot. Oh, can't find what you're looking for, come back tomorrow. It might be there. That sort of thing. Yeah, the used car dealership and sort of how all of that's going to get implemented, because, like I said, because it's such an online-focused game, it wouldn't make sense for it to do a refresh like every race like it did in previous entries. I think maybe a daily or even a weekly. Weekly might be too far, but
I reckon daily.
I'd say daily on a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, some sort of synchronized.
I wonder if part of that is because back in the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 days, did they have the ability to operate the game on a timed life cycle? Like, was the game attached to a clock in any way?
I don't think 4 was, no.
How would they know when 24 hours had passed if the game was incapable of that? They wouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
Perhaps that's the reason why. So, obviously, with online, you would now have no trouble tracking a clock in game.
Yeah.
So you may be right. It may work out on an hourly or 12-hourly or 24-hourly rotation.
I think the best way for me, I think, would be daily. Like, you don't have the car you want, come back tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It would certainly, and again, because Gran Turismo 6 had no used car dealership, you could buy every car day one if you had the money, and GT Sport was the same. So to be returning to a used car game mechanic, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, and
the used car dealership is such a cool feature to me.
I love it. I do like it, and it's certainly like. I really hope they do those low mileage ones. Like, I think in Gran Turismo 4, you could be going through the used car dealership, and it was a rare occurrence. There'd be a car that had like 10 Ks on it, or virtually 0 miles on it.
X-Demo, bro.
Yeah, basically, but it would be like an Evo 3 or a Honda S2000 or something, something really grouse with like no mileage, so you didn't have to pay to have it, engine overhauled and restored and all that sort of thing. It was actually really cool.
All right, see, that's interesting that you both love the used car dealership function. I'm not a massive fan, I'll be honest.
Ooh,
I'm not
a
huge fan. Okay. I'll start off with, I understand why they're doing it. With such a massive emphasis on car collecting, it would be, kind of one-sided if you could just go and buy all the cars in Brand Central or whatever. Because then if you have loads of money, you could just progress through collecting all the cars just by simply buying them. So I understand why there's a used car dealership. So you have to, return back, find a good mileage one if that's your thing. But I think I take a bit of a different approach. I'm not massively fussed on the whole wait a day, your car might not be there. I think I would prefer just to go, this car's in the game, I'm just going to go and buy it, and then I can drive that car. I've actually got to do some sort of progress, or maybe wait a few days before I even have an opportunity to buy the car that I want to buy. That's my reasoning behind it. I understand why they've done it.
Slow progression, I think.
I was going to say, I think it sort of ties into what because Atom said earlier about how with the older GT games you had to start with an 80s or 90s, junker, and sort of work your way up to. So it sort of forces that narrative in a sense that you can't just buy like a Group 3 Aston Martin and lay waste to everybody.
Makes you feel more involved in it as well. Like, the car will feel like it belongs to you, because the way it goes is you buy the car from the second-hand used dealership, you go to GT Auto, you get an oil change done, and then you wash the car, and then suddenly you've got what's just about a new car, but you've paid a whole lot less because that's all you could afford, and it feels like you truly own this car.
That's a very good point.
With it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah,
and especially with the customization that you have available to you in this generation, like, it's going to make it that much more personal. You've washed it, you've oiled it, you've given it a paint job, put wheels on it. It is your car.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand it. I can understand why they've done it. It's just me personally, I wouldn't mind if all the cars were just available to buy. But yeah, obviously, with the emphasis on car collecting and making the cars your own, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Yeah.
You're bougie. You only buy from the dealer, Smoke?
Oh, mate. Always buying from the dealer, mate.
Do both of you guys have all the cars in GT Sport? Like,
No.
have you got all of them?
No. Funny you should say that. I spent the last couple of days completing the Lewis Hamilton time trial challenge because I never actually did it. So I diamonded everything and got my 100 million. But obviously we're so close to GT7. I'm like, can I be bothered going through Brand Central and buying everything? Not really. So
no.
I could probably afford to get everything, but I don't.
So
have
you're missing. You're missing quite a few cars, Atom, or
I'm missing quite a few. Don't forget, I was very late to the party. I've only been playing for just over a year and a half. So
I think I'm four cars short. There's 3 really expensive cars I don't have, and the Le Mans prototype Audi R18 that only comes up in the daily spin. Tez got it recently.
Yeah, I actually got it a couple months ago. Yeah, I'm pretty wrapped.
I think I was there when somebody got it. I can't remember who, but I found out about it because someone got it and they said, "Oh, it's beaten up. It's been through."
Yeah, it might have been my one. Might have been my one because I went into the photo mode because the whole gimmick behind that one is it's supposed to have all the damage and stuff from that particular race replicated onto it.
Yeah,
but it actually doesn't. Well, it might on one side, but the damage on one side is just copied over to the other side. It's just flipped.
Oh,
so, a little bit disappointing in that regard. But hey, look, it's a
maybe the damage, the actual damage on the other side was just not aesthetic enough.
yeah, there wasn't.
That authentic damage isn't authentic enough. We're gonna have to make our own.
There's actually a pretty big following for that sort of thing. Is Le Mans cars with all the damage and dirt, they don't wash them after the race.
Really? So they sell it to a collector with all the damage still intact.
You know the Bentley Speed 8, the 2003 one in Gran Turismo 4. That's sitting in a garage somewhere in Europe, I assume. Still dirty and still got bits of rubber and everything on it.
Wow.
Character. It adds character. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing must be rotting, bro. It must be rotting.
No, because they did a was it like a Top Gear feature or something on it? I think it was last year, and at that point it had been sitting there for or it had that dirt on it for 12 years, 11 years or something, and they just sort of oh yeah, looks good.
You can't ceramic coat your damage, bro. You're gonna damage your damage. You're gonna end up with problems. Yeah. I don't know. I understand the idea behind it, but I don't think it's going to last very long.
No.
The car is not going to remain in that exact state.
It's definitely one of those things. They like you say, it's character. They like to, hey, here's a car that's done a race. Oh, how can you prove that it's done a race? Well, it's still got all the race damage. Dirt and damage. Yeah. So
what if they've taken a chink out of the chassis underneath, for example, and exposed raw metal during the race? And it's
that can't be good. That can't be good.
You've had a Le Mans car for 20 years that's had this little bit of damage to the subframe, and that damage has rusted out the entire subframe.
But to be fair,
it's not the same damage anymore, is it?
To be fair, it's not gonna worsen if it's kept in a air conditioned, dehumidified, garage somewhere. So
yeah, I suppose.
If they were still taking it to the track and running it around like Suzuka for the heck of it, then obviously, absolutely. But I think most of these ex-Le Mans cars are pretty well locked away.
Trying to add more crash damage to their crash damage.
Well, the 787B got fully restored, as I'm pretty sure you guys know.
I've seen
that. Runs around Fuji. So, it's not unheard of, but I suppose at the end of the day, it's just down to the individual collector or the person that ends up buying those ex-race cars.
All right. Well, I think the big thing we have to talk about, wet weather. Wet weather. I think we have to talk about this. So, what are our thoughts first up?
Well, going back to what we actually talked about with the GT Sport lasting an extra 2 years on its life cycle, I wonder if we would have got dynamic weather if it had been released in 2020, as it was supposed to be. Because 3 years from GT Sport to GT7, we got wet weather in GT Sport, but it was not dynamic, and that was in 2018 or 19.
Yeah.
And if they were planning on releasing GT7 a year later, I don't think we would have had dynamic weather. So, again, with the timing, I think it's near perfect. It's worked out to be better. and for that reason we've got dynamic weather, if what I'm theorizing is correct. But the dynamic weather looks great. The only gripe I have about the dynamic weather and the rain is that your windshield wipers just delete the rain off the screen. They don't actually
doesn't
wipe
actually
it.
squeegee the water away.
They don't visually squeegee it if you're in a cockpit view, but I don't use cockpit view, so it doesn't matter.
Drive Club certainly had the best wet weather physics and graphics. I think if either of you guys played Drive Club,
No.
The spray
I
looks better in this than it did in Sport for sure. The spray is amazing. It really hinders your visibility from everything I've seen, and the I don't know if you guys have seen the grip meter on the left.
Yeah. Oh, the like water. Yeah.
I heard someone talking about that today, saying that they're not a fan and that you should have to feel it. Which I say, nah, it's for the casuals. And
I was gonna say, if you're a pro or if you're that experienced, you're not going to be looking at a gauge anyway. You'll be looking at the track, so it's definitely a casual thing.
Yeah. Also, I think it's good to have because, like, imagine yourself in a scenario, like where you're racing, the track's drying, you've got wet patches on the outside, but maybe the graphics aren't quite detailed enough where you don't quite pick up on whether it's 80% wet or 65% wet, and you go on there, brake a tiny bit too late because you've misjudged that, and off the track you go. That's your race done. I guess the rebuttal to that is, well, that's just like real life. But it'd be frustrating for just a racing game to have a really good race just go down the toilet because you didn't have an accurate representation on just how wet it is, especially if you're trying to survive on slicks or something.
Yeah, but that's kind of weather in general, like even in real life, that's just part of wet weather being
it's true, but if you consider a real racer in a real race situation, you would have a race engineer in your ear giving you the statistical details of the weather at the time. Like, they would tell you that percentage that Smock was just saying. They would say there's 35% more moisture in Sector 2. They would tell you that. You would know that. And that would help with your decision making, and that's why the bar is there, because that's all you can get. They could give you a race engineer in GT Sport. They probably could do that. In GT7, sorry. They could have gone with that instead, potentially, because they have that in your other sims, your ACC and your iRacing. And they're just like a message. You get the same message all the time, but that message can be important. And
I'd love to hear Tom Brooks in my ear.
Yes! Oh, that would be great! So you could get a race engineer to replace your grip meter, as well as your radar. Not your radar, but your weather radar.
Yeah.
They could also replace your fuel numbers and other things instead. But as far as just the grip meter, if people have a problem with it, I would say the best solution from PD's side would be to get a race engineer in its place.
You
need that statistical information, yeah.
You got me thinking that's actually a dangerous, not bad dangerous, but that's actually a dangerous concept of having a race engineer. But then imagine if you could pick, you had available race engineers you could have, and that opens the door to having like celebrity.
You have to buy a race engineer.
Okay.
The Tom Brooks pack, the Jeremy Clarkson pack.
Yeah.
What's his name? Tom Kotcher, who you guys probably don't know who Tom Kotcher is. He was Rick in the V8 Supercar games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You also get Neil Crompton on there from Supercars. David Crofty. Bono.
Oh,
please.
If Gran Turismo actually went down that road, I think that would be very interesting, and
it would be
definitely for it. But again, like you guys said, it would have to be implemented, I think, carefully, because we've lasted this long without it. So I just feel like you don't want them to implement it just because all the other sims are doing it. You want it to actually contribute to your racing experience.
What they could do is they could add it as like a single race. Like, there's a race event that they bring out as a DLC later down the line. It's like a 4-hour of Le Mans, but it's with a race engineer. And it's the only race in the game that has an engineer, and that could be their trial to see if it's an effective system to have. and then they could think about that for GT8. You know, like they had the wet weather in GT Sport. It was, you know, beta basically.
It was that Northern Isle festival, those time trials.
Yeah.
I like how your idea of a test is a 4-hour race. That's just a test.
Well, it would have to be like a solid event.
Does it though? Because it could.
I think so.
It could just be a 5-lap race with a pit stop in the middle.
Well, they already have 24-hour races, right? Or they had them in the old games. I don't know if they have them in this.
Yeah.
If they do have 24-hour races in this, then you'd have to maybe do the race engineer for the 24-hour races, you know?
Yeah, but the thing is, if they're wanting, like, just in the sense of getting a demo, like you suggested about having a demo to see how it would work, it doesn't have to be a long race. It just has to be an action-packed race where an engineer... So, 5 laps, okay, let's say 10 laps, right? 10 laps, there's a pit stop in the middle, and then after the pit stop, it starts to rain. So, that sort of changing conditions thing where an engineer can say, hey, look, Atom, it's raining in Sector 4 or whatever, that sort of thing. So, it doesn't have to be a 4-hour, because what they would be wanting is feedback, and in order to get feedback, you'd need to finish the race, and I don't see any casuals finishing any 4-hour races, just for the heck of it. So,
excellent point.
Even a 10-lap race around Nürburgring would probably be too tedious for most people. You remember the final mission challenge in GT Sport?
It's just 4. It's only 4
laps. Yeah. So,
yeah,
I don't know. There's definitely ways to implement it, but like I said, just as long as they don't do it because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, they have to do it in their own unique way if they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
something of
the other. I was just going to say the other thing the other thing to consider too is if they do implement a race engineer, they'll need all the languages too, because it's such a multicultural game.
It's an international,
Yeah.
They'd need
so
language
all the added
support.
Work.
Yeah. Language support for all the languages that are already in the game.
Yep.
Okay, something about wet weather I found, tiny little tidbit I found interesting, is that it's changed from like a circle with a number in it to a bar with increments up. You remember in the earlier trailers it was a circle with like raindrops on the top?
It was a percentage, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a percentage. I said in my State of Play breakdown it was a percentage, but I sort of went back to watch bits of it today to get some ideas to talk about, and I think I saw it like click up over 100. So
I think over 100 is supposed to be aquaplaning though. I think that's what that was supposed to be, because 100% water would be like it's real heavy, but your wheel's still on the ground. Anything more than that, and you're starting to aquaplane, which obviously you do not want.
But like obviously, it's now changed to a bar, and it's got like increments up. And I'm assuming we've seen Super GT's breakdown.
Yeah,
he kind of said that the bars represent the type of tyre that you can survive on. So if it's under the first bar, you can survive on slicks. If it's under the second, inters. If it's above the second, so like in the third part of the bar is heavy wets.
Do we think split into thirds, and I think that helps you figure out what you're looking at.
It's certainly a good approachable, because again, casuals might not know the difference between intermediates and heavy wets. They just think, oh, wet weather is wet weather. So some sort of progression system of, and again, a lot of people, you can race on slicks in the wet.
Yeah,
you can, provided you've got temperature in the tires, and there are ways to go about it, but you can do it. It's not, I mean, obviously it's perilous, but it's not as unheard of or dangerous as people make it out to be. It's not like you will instantly understeer and crash into the wall and game over.
Well, yeah, you hear plenty of stories of drivers in motorsport who have made risky decisions to jump on a slick tyre while it's still wet because they believe that dry weather is coming and they're going to benefit from that. Or the other way around, they go into the wet tyre early and then they're more prepared for the wet weather when it comes.
We kind of saw a recent example of that at the Russian Grand Prix last year.
Yes.
Norris and his team and McLaren gambled and thought, let's stay on these slick tyres. There's only a couple of laps left. Torrential rain in the last few laps, so he ended up just choking.
Oh, dude, the amount of pressure that he must have been under.
He would have been immense. Like, I'm definitely not having a go at him whatsoever, but it's just like exactly that. We can get that in Gran Turismo 7 now.
Yeah.
And I'm seriously looking forward to that. And it sort of leads into the next point I wanted to make as well with the wet weather radar. Say that 10 times fast, God. It's definitely, I think that's definitely good, because if you've got a tiny patch of rain coming, like, I think it's color-coded, isn't it? The dark
I don't know. I need to learn how to read.
I think it is color-coded. I think it goes red for really heavy rain. Imagine if you've got this tiny dot of red coming over the track, you have the decision there, do I pit for the wet tyres? Because obviously if it's a tiny patch, you're going to then have to pit again back onto the dries, or do you gamble with the dry tyres, stay through the rain? You know, is that going to be quicker than pitting twice to go onto the wets and then back off the wets?
That 50-50 decision is going to be really exciting if it ever comes up in a high-pressure situation where you go, the rain's coming, I'm at the pit entry now, do I go one more or do I go in now? You'd make that decision. That's going to like spike your adrenaline sky high.
Absolutely.
You know?
So that's very exciting. Although I'm concerned that I will feel hard done by if I make the wrong decision and get put to the back of the grid, because that could very well happen.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to see a little bit more of that, because in Gran Turismo Sport, where the weather's always consistent in sport, obviously, you can just practice that weather condition. You can just practice as much as you can, become one of the quickest at the combo, and you're pretty much guaranteed to do well as long as nothing out of your control in the race goes wrong, as long as you don't get taken out or whatever, or you make a silly mistake and crash. Like, you can practice, you know what the conditions are going to be like in the race, and you can be well prepared for it. Whereas with this dynamic weather, I guess it sort of leads into to the next point. You know, the changing weather through the race is going to be difficult to practice for that.
I agree.
Especially
unless they do, like, especially time trials, so like they can have the option of dynamic weather or fixed weather, because it was like they'd be silly to do dynamic weather on a ranked time trial, for example.
Yeah.
Where exactly, because otherwise you'd have that one person who goes out there and does 100 laps so that the track's nice and dry, and then he bolts on a set and goes hard. So I definitely think for like time trials and possibly even qualifying, just for just for balance reasons.
I'm going to disagree with qualifying just quietly, because I think the wet qualifying's like, we've all heard that one of the most famous lines in Formula One history, like, even if you put rocket ship, we will be 11th. So, you know, like, seeing something like that happen in qualifying would be quite cool. And it means like you got to get your dry lap in as soon as you can if you're in qualifying and the weather is dynamic. But I brought this up as a problem when dynamic weather was first announced, when it was even teased, when they had the I think it was a time lapse of the clouds rolling across the sky in the very first trailer, which teased dynamic weather, and people were saying, "Oh, dynamic." I said, "This is I don't know how this is going to work for FIA." Like, if you have 3 slots for FIA, the same way as we already have, or 5 slots or whatever, the first slot is 10 laps, and at the end of the 8th lap, it starts raining.
Yep.
And then in the second slot, because you had a shocker in the first one, you weren't prepared for the wet weather, you go again, and it's just wet the whole race. Or it's dry the whole race. Is it going to be different between slot 1 and slot 2, or is it going to be the same? Because if it's going to be different, then you're going to have problems. But if it's the same, you're going to have people who go, "Oh, I know what the weather's going to do now, and I know exactly when to change the tyre."
It was exactly the point I was going to bring up. I think there's a bigger picture here with the fairness of the competition if it's going to continue. I will point out. I would say more so recently, right to the build up of the game, I would say the FIA endorsement, the FIA partnership has gone a bit quiet. There's not much going on about it. We finished the FIA season in sport, and then the last season we just finished was not FIA endorsed whatsoever, and there's nothing yet. I feel like the game's releasing tomorrow.
I think
there's still nothing with FIA.
No, I think Road to GT7 had no real right to be FIA endorsed.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah.
Fun. As opposed to whether or not the FIA will be included in the future, I agree. Something should have been said already.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that it's necessarily out. It's just. No. And again, we're going to have the answer in a few hours. Basically.
Yeah. So. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Nate. First of all, Gran Turismo Sport, when was the first FIA certified championship? How long after the launch was it?
I think it was before the launch, wasn't it? Didn't they do like a big pre-event type thing?
There were definitely test seasons.
I know they did an alpha and a beta. I'm sure that the test seasons were during the game's life cycle. But the reason I say this is I get the feeling that the FIA was not involved for nearly a year after release, because the first FIA GTC World Finals were 2018. There wasn't any in 2017, and that was when it was released. So again, what I mean by this is that I think the FIA could come to the party yet. They may just be hashing out the details. We have had confirmation of a championship, and we have had confirmation of live events returning as well. I don't know if you guys know about that. I saw a tweet today from the organizer of the live events, basically saying, looking forward to seeing people at the World Finals this year. So I think we can expect to see something come to us as time goes on, but it looks like they've been fully focused on the single player side of things.
I completely understand that. Where I was sort of taking that point is, I feel like if a competition is endorsed by the FIA, it really should be a fair competition, give everyone an equal opportunity to actually, reach the top, reach those live events, like you say. But then, what's the dynamic weather going to do?
Dynamic weather just can't do that.
And there's more. There's more too. The tuning, the body kits. If you upgrade your car, if you upgrade a Group 3 car, for example, can you still race against other people in their Group 3 cars? I mean, I guess the performance points come into that a bit, but
I don't think
there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be too much to do to like Group 3 and Group 4 cars with regards to customization and tuning, because they are race cars. As far as the sport mode and what can you bring your wide-bodied clapped-out RX-8 into a Nations Cup race? It might run under the same principles as like the Manufacture Series, wherein they give you the car to compete in.
Yeah.
So, like Manufacture Series, you sign a contract, here's a Group 3 car, here's a Group 4 car, go racing, right? It's all good.
That's very true.
They might do a similar thing with the Nations Cup. They say, hey, look, this race is coming up, right? So, I don't know, pick a class, N200, N300, or sorry, now it's all PP points, so maybe 650 PP, right? Here's the list of cars that are eligible. Pick one, and then we will add it to your garage, and you can chuck a livery on it and all that sort of thing. And that's the other thing that I hope is addressed with 7, is that you can put your own designs on like provided cars.
Yeah.
So that we don't have those races where, especially if it's a car that's only got like a couple of color options, like you want to actually.
There's some cars that have one color option.
Yeah, exactly. So
you get a one make and you get an identical grid.
So where I'm going with that is that rather than, again, you can't bring your wide-bodied, souped up whatever, but they will provide you a car and you can't touch it, but you can, put your own colour on it, put your branding on it, that sort of thing. I think that would be a very good...
That would be good. The only sort of reservation I have with that particular idea is that recently we saw tuning open in a manufacturer race, a couple of them actually. We had the Group 3 at Willow and the Group 4 at Miyabi, Kyoto Driving Park Miyabi. Tuning was on, and again, it comes back to it, the fairness. I do not believe that tuning, especially tuning and like upgrades, are fair in a competition endorsed by the FIA. If they made their own competition, Gran Turismo competitions, I guess that's fair enough. But if it's endorsed by the international sporting body, it needs to be a fair competition. And so far, I've seen nothing about like balance of performance. Whether that's coming back, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll play. Yeah.
No, go Adam, go.
Sorry. I just want to play devil's advocate on what Smock was just saying when it comes to tuning and stuff, and the FIA. What you say about them perhaps not sanctioning an event, that's not fair because some people can tune, some people can't. Generally, FIA certified or FIA run motorsport events like Formula One, for example, all the cars are different in Formula One.
Yeah, true.
And they have rules and limits as to what you can and cannot build. And then it's the team's job to build the best car they can within the limits that they're given and push the boundaries as much as possible. And perhaps that's what they're trying to do with Gran Turismo 7. So I think there's no reason why FIA wouldn't certify an event that had tuning and things allowed. I think that's not going to stop them. But I also do not want to see tuning in FIA. I would much prefer to have fixed setups. Because adding tuning for a start adds so much more R&D into your practice for an event. Like, you have to spend so much more time.
That is quite a big turn-off for me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I'm worried about is I do not want to have to sit there for hours and make a tune, because at the end of the day, all I'm going to do is wait for someone else to make a tune, then make a YouTube video, and then grab that. In which case, on a large scale, if people are going to do that, especially like in top split or whatever, like top split competition, everyone's going to be running the best tune. And if you've got someone like AMS Dude on YouTube who's really reliable, he makes good tunes, the cars are fast, everyone's just going to use the same tune anyway, in which case, why not just avoid the whole thing? Why not avoid the whole thing and just have balance of performance on? The only thing about that is that AMS Dude's tunes on the cars feel a lot nicer than whatever Polyphony Digital Bot was. But like again, I just feel like tuning's on, yes, people can choose different tunes, yes, but in the top level of the competition, everyone's going to be in the same car anyway. Just have Bop. Just have Bop on. It's so much easier.
I do think that, I mean, the FIA races where there was tuning enabled, I definitely think that was just a tester. Yeah. Because it wasn't an actual series; it was an exhibition series. So that was certainly the right time for them to try something like that and just see what the general consensus was from the player base. As far as tuning races in like a sanctioned series, I don't think it should be a thing. I'm with you on that, Smock. It does also open up the possibility of more championships. So, sport, we've had the Nations Cup, we've had the Manufacturer Series, right? And then recently we've had the Olympic Virtual Series, which was the time trial. We had the Toyota Gazoo Cup, which is picking up in popularity. They could do a tuning championship where all the races are tuning enabled, or they could do a street, like a streetcar series where bring your wide-bodied Civic or your touring car built. They could do like a what was it called on like Gran Turismo All Stars. That was one of their championships that they had, where it was all their original race cars. So I definitely think that they could do something like that.
There's room in the game to do something like that. Absolutely,
exactly, and that's assuming that manufacturers and nations carries over. So definitely, I'd love to see some more championships.
In a perfect world, here we go. This is my idea of perfection here. Nations Cup and manufacturers, pretty much as they were in sport. I don't think there was necessarily too much wrong with those competitions. I think maybe the way the points were calculated is a bit how you're going, but it's not that bad. The racing is fine. But then completely separately, a tuning championship. I reckon at least that extra one, a tuning championship, because then you can have your balanced, good championship races. It's just the drivers and I guess the car and the manufacturer series, like doing the hard yards. You have to do the best you can. And then for those that like the tuning, because again, there's going to be a massive population of players that really enjoy the tuning, they have their tuning championship. They can go to town. They can do whatever they want. I think the reservations I have is that they're mixing the two, and it makes it difficult for someone like me that doesn't enjoy tuning. I have to race against people that love it and can get a really good tune on their car, whereas I just don't have the patience to develop it, so I'm just going to copy someone else.
I agree with the tuning championship.
That was exactly it. Yeah. I definitely think there would be, and again, we're sort of breaking away from the pros who will just race anything. Like say they will go the extra mile. They'll get the ideal setup. They'll race whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there can also be some amateur. I use the term loosely. Amateur casual championships for the people that want a rally championship or and actually, while we're talking about sport mode, what do you guys think about the splits, the whole GT1, GT2,
Yeah,
GT3
I was
thing?
just going to say, have you guys seen that? So I like the way it works. My understanding is that the season will be due to start on the 1st of April, and on the 31st of March, everyone's DR will be assessed, and then at midnight, everyone will be slotted into their GT1, GT2, or GT3. So everything that's A and above, so A and A plus, is GT1. Everyone who's B rated is in GT2, and C and below is GT3. And then the good thing about that is, if you're a B rated driver and you've done 4 rounds and you go look at the points table, you see the points table for all the B drivers. You do not see the A plus drivers who you're not racing and you're not competing against.
I think there are pros and cons for that. Absolutely, that's one of the best pros. I think is everyone's sort of ranked against their own skill level. You're not looking down. Oh, look, I made the top 100 just because of all these faster drivers. But really, if you're in the top 100 of a regional ranking, you can then narrow that down to people of your skill level, and then you can get a true representation of where you sit amongst others.
It'll be an ego trip for some people who don't understand that they're not actually in the top category.
It will.
The fact that it will reward people who do not have the ability to make it to the very top, which is going to improve the entire attitude of the player base, I think. There'll be people who will be like, oh, I was in the top 10, and they would never be anyway near that in the top if they're C rated.
It gives them something, gives them something to hold on to,
Yeah. Can I put forward something that would never happen, but it would be awesome if it did?
Yes.
Live events, right? But bring the top guys in GT1.
Yes.
But also bring the top guys in GT2, so you have the GT1 champion, the GT2 champion, and the GT3 champion.
If that's the case, though, then someone like me, who is borderline to make it for GT1, or probably wouldn't make it for GT1 but might get close, if I tank my DR and go down to GT2...
That's your choice. That's the whole thing. That is your choice. There will be... there will be people that...
Yeah.
People
that's
like you that go...
though, really, I think. So
I don't know. It's like I said, it's probably never going to happen because obviously the world events are hard enough to organise as it is.
I like the idea.
I
like the idea. I think someone actually talked about that previously. I'm having a bit of a memory now of it. Someone mentioned that, I think, and then the argument for it was watching B-rated drivers race each other will not make good television. Will not be a good advertisement for the game. Same with C-rated drivers for your GT3. So
that is a fair
I like the idea, and I like the idea of rewarding people who are down in the lower ends, like the B-rated drivers, giving them something to reward them when they would never have realistically have achieved that otherwise. But it probably would not work.
Even if you had the GT1, right, top split, Fraga, Lukovsky, all the big names, right? You have them competing, right? They're the headline act. They're the big front runners. Even if you had some of the GT2 guys and almost ran it like a development series, sort of had the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like a feeder series almost.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not sure that it would be feasible to fly them to Monaco.
Yeah, it kind of falls under the umbrella of the Pro-Am races that they've done in the past. So they had the Pro GT driver and they had an amateur driver race.
Yeah.
They never really put them on the official broadcasts, but the footage out there exists.
Yeah.
So
because they did.
It would not be the first time they've had someone or people who are not at the top level on a broadcast to advertise the game.
Because they used to do that with that was how they teased the new cars. Because I remember there was a Pro-Am race that used the Jaguar VGT, and that was like 3 months before it came out.
Yeah.
3 months, or it was pre-release anyway.
It was before,
our first look at the Jaguar VGT. So that would be interesting. There's definitely a lot of ways to go about it. What I think is going to happen, though, for certain, we're not going to see any championships for the first probably 6 months, at the least, because there needs to be that grace period for people to start the game, build up their garage, play the game, and then once we've got millions of credits and a respectable sized garage, then they can say, right, time to open the championships. Boom, because they would be foolish to start a championship like weeks or months into a release as big as GT7, especially with such a heavy single player campaign.
From what we've seen, there will be a test season.
Yeah, I was going to say there'd be a test season,
but I'm saying there won't be. There's not going to be any live event. Yeah, any live event things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's supposedly going to be a World Finals this year, so I think there will be a main season.
I think seeing a live event this year, or World Final, whatever they're going to call it, this year is I think that's realistic, because they can start the championship in July, May. August.
But I asked you, will it be a live event? Like, will it be a live event, or will it just be an
online
final?
Well, no. Yeah. They can do a live event, but will it be a championship event, or will it just be, hey, Matt McEwen and Valerio Gallo and all you guys, hey, just come and do a race or two here in Monaco and promote GT7.
It'd be like invite the previous World Finals qualifiers.
Yeah. Like I said,
which is what they've done in the past.
There definitely needs to be a period of just leave everybody alone and let them discover the new stuff for themselves. Let them
definitely
drive all the new cars, and because otherwise you sort of lose the hype for GT7, because you're not enjoying the game. You're grinding to get all the cars so that you can compete in the championships.
Yeah, and you were talking about this before as well, Nate, when you talked about in the Nations Cup and the Manufacturer Series, they provide you with the cars, which I think is a valid solution to the problems that we might end up seeing, or that I'm expecting us to end up seeing, because of the way the game exists and the way the progression is designed. And when it comes to online racing, when you require a car for a set event. So you said about providing cars. If they weren't to provide cars, then you would need to grind through the game and purchase the correct cars so that you have the cars available. If a PP300 event comes up, you need the meta PP300 car. Mm-hmm. You need the money to buy that car for that event, and you can only get that by grinding out the game. So it's the same thing.
I was gonna touch on this before. I think the best way they could possibly mitigate all these issues we've talked about is to almost completely separate the competition from the rest of the game. You have, I think there's going to be pros and cons for it, but it solves, in my mind at least, it solves the tuning, because you can enable like a fixed setup or whatever. Give you a separate garage for championships. So you have the main home screen. You click on what is it, the Nations Cup trophy logo or whatever it's going to be. You click on that, and then it gives you a championship garage where you maybe have to buy a second copy of the car to leave stock. It locks a setup on it, or locks a performance point limit or whatever, and that's what you use to go into your championship races.
That would certainly be
I think that would solve it.
That would certainly be an interesting idea, having your garage. Yeah. And then having your sport mode garage, which, like you say, maybe, I don't know if this is going to happen, but, maybe you could go to Brand Central, right? La, my name's Smok, I'd like to buy a Z4 GT3, please. And they will say,
no, I won't.
Are you buying that? but you can elect to either purchase it for yourself or purchase it for sport mode. And if you purchase it for sport mode, the setups get locked and everything gets locked. You can't touch it. But if you buy it for yourself, then by all means, whack a turbo on, give it 1200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yahoo, that sort of thing. I think that could work.
I think it's an idea out there, because as it seems at the moment, you buy the Z4 GT3 or whatever, make it produce 1200 horsepower, and then you go and enter a sport mode race. Like, what happens? I think
probably like all things
from memory. Yeah, exactly. I think from memory, like the Group 3, Group 4 cars, they also have a performance points rating. So I think if you go into a group, I'm pretty sure I've seen
they
it.
do from what we've seen.
Yeah. I think all the cars have a PP rating, and it's just the race cars themselves have an additional, like Group X doesn't exist
as
anymore.
No. Yeah. So I guess what they're going to do is they're going to have a Group 3 race, but then also put a performance point limit on it, so you can't rock up with a 1200 horsepower GT3 car. But yeah,
or just use BOP.
What's all the other? Yeah, what happens to all the other tuning? Does it? Yeah,
like all things.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It just so if you have a 1200 horsepower Z4 GT3, right, and to obviously accommodate for the fact that you have 1200 horsepower, your gears are way longer and everything's all set up for high speed. If you
just nerf the power,
if you nerf the power and weight, so BOP gets enabled, right?
Yep.
Well, then you'll have to change the gears and change the because otherwise you're driving something that's geared for 500 k's an hour, but you're struggling to pass 250. You've
got a tune on it for a different car.
Exactly. You've got the wrong tune, so it would be up to you to tune accordingly, and that's probably where having the different sheets would come into place. Obviously, you can have 3 different setups saved for high speed or for circuit or for that sort of thing. It's there are ways to do it. There are ways to go about it.
Yeah, it'll be obviously we don't know anything about what they're going to do in that regard, but it's just
10 hours away. 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Quietly hopeful, but I guess we'll see.
It just seems to me at the moment there's going to be dynamic weather, and it's not sort of fleshed out exactly how that's going to work in championships. And it also seems we have tuning. It's just a lot of variables going in. I would like Atom said before, the tuning is the FIA is not going to be scared about sanctioning an event with tuning, and I definitely see that point. But in a more casual situation like that, obviously none of us are race engineers. We don't know how to properly set up a car, so we're just going to copy someone else. So if we have...
Nate's a race engineer.
Oh, look at that. It's still outnumbered, mate. 66% of us aren't.
Oh, unfortunately. I'll have to get on. I'll have to bring one of my race engineer friends.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're gonna outnumber us.
Yeah,
but at the moment, variable tuning, variable weather, doesn't seem like it's sort of making for an attractive, fair championship for casual players. That's my worries. That's my worries.
It just depends how they lay it out. It's a question of how do they balance it, and if the balance is acceptable, then it's cool. If it's in that grey area or going beyond, then we might have an issue, and we might see people exploiting things like I said with the dynamic weather. If it changes if the weather in slot 1 is identical to the weather in slot 2, then
it's not very dynamic, is it?
You're going to see people exploiting that, and that's going to make it unfair, I guess.
On that topic, I don't necessarily mind seeing something to what they do or something similar to what they do in the Formula 1 career mode. I watch Ben Daly's career mode, and that's about all the F1 game content I watch. But it shows you a race progression. It shows you the different bits of weather over the course of the race, but then when you're in the race, you don't know if it's going to rain on lap 26 or whether it's going to rain on lap 27. You just have the time or the weather conditions split over six slots or whatever. You might have sun in the first 2 and then a bit of cloud in the third one, and then it starts to get progressively heavier, so you know it's going to rain as it gets later into the race, but you don't know on which lap that's actually going to arrive.
I think
Is that how they may go about it?
Possibly. I reckon one way to also go about it would be fixed weather. So, slot 1, right? Fixed weather at the start of the race. So, let's say 50% wet, right? And then from there, how wet or how dry the track is up to the drivers. So, if you've got everybody single file making a dry line, then the dry line, but the edges are still super wet. Whereas if you've got people sort of all over the show, then the track will still be wetter, but it'll be more dry, across
overall,
the track, rather than having a dry line, wet line, that sort of thing.
I actually wanted to talk about that actually, that specific thing.
Drying feature.
Dry line.
Yeah, the drying line feature. Okay, is it going to be is it going to be a time-based thing where, like, the dry line is already programmed in, the game already knows what part of the track is going to dry, regardless of whether the cars actually drive on it? It's just a matter of, as the laps pass, this racing line that we've programmed in gets drier? Or is it actually going to be based off the parts of the track the cars drive over? So I think it would be interesting to test this by getting, like, a group of us in a lobby or whatever, or in a daily race, and we all coordinate to exclusively drive off the traditional racing line on the drying track to see what part of the track actually dries. Because I think, for the most part, I think it's perfectly acceptable to have the dry line predetermined. Like, the game already knows what part of the track is going to dry, because in most racing scenarios, you're going to be using the racing line. So I think that's a perfectly acceptable way to go about it. But like you said, Nesmo, how's that going to work for the championship? Because you could easily just exploit it a bit and make sure the whole track gets a little bit drier. But is it going to necessarily work like that?
It's not really an exploit, though, is it? Because you're driving off the racing line multiple times just to dry the track off. I don't think it's all that exploitable, really, in the grand scheme of things. If you're, the only reason you would do that is if you were, didn't give a crap about your race and you're like, hey, I'll help you guys out by driving off.
Yeah, true. I guess exploit was the wrong word, but...
Have either of you guys played much Project Cars 2?
No.
Because from what... Well, neither have I. But from what I've read, that had a really good wet weather system.
Okay.
In that, the rain sort of followed the... so Mount Panorama, it would dry. The rain from the high bits would sort of run down to the low bits, and sort of puddles forming and that sort of thing, and as well as drying. Obviously, apparently that was really good for drying. So it might pay to look at that. As far as that might be how it's enacted. So it'll definitely be interesting with like flatter tracks like Tsukuba. Obviously, it won't really matter too much as far as where the water's going to flow because it's pretty flat. And the same with the weather radar. Small tracks, it's not really going to matter because you can see, But longer tracks like the Nürburgring, obviously, of course, it's going to make a difference. Le Mans, definitely.
That's the big one, I think.
Yeah. So it's
and Spa as well.
Spa, yeah.
Spa's a pretty long track lengthwise. I think
it is.
It's an interesting concept to look at, and I think the wet weather is going to plague a lot of people for a little while before we figure out exactly how the mechanics work.
It'll be a matter of just getting used to it, I think.
Remembering, of course, that Gran Turismo will obviously be listening for feedback, and they're not against changing things if enough of the community goes, hey, this needs to be addressed.
I imagine they're taking feedback already. They're probably already taking feedback from the reviewers for the day one patch.
Yeah,
to make
we
sure
saw
the
that
game
with
is perfect on release.
We saw that with the fuel indicator. Remember in the early days of Gran Turismo, you're low on fuel, you get your fuel indicator right on the horizon. It's there for the entire lap, but like a lot of people were sort of... Oh, the halo, a lot of people were up in arms about it, and they changed it. The halo's transparent now. The fuel indicator only comes on at the pit entry.
Yeah, so
that fuel warning actually only comes on your fuel gauge now, apparently.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't come up on the middle of the screen.
No,
I didn't necessarily mind it on the middle of the screen, to be honest.
Neither did I.
Because it only came up on the pit entry when it mattered. It wasn't... Like, it doesn't matter if you've got half a lap of fuel remaining and you're on the other side of the Nordschleife, and it's covering your horizon. Like, that was annoying.
I definitely think that it's... obviously, Gran Turismo aren't beneath making tweaks to the game if there's enough of a... And it has to be a legitimate reception. They can't just be like, oh, I don't like the colour of the shifter, and then they change it or whatever. It has to be a legitimate, reasonable,
there's enough outcry there. They're happy to change stuff. It looks like they appease the community.
Good. Yeah,
like the Halo thing was sensible because obviously in real life, you sort of look through the halo. If you ever do the thing with your finger and you sort of that is exactly what happens with halos.
You can see around it. You can sort of see around it because of the way.
So on a TV screen or a monitor, obviously you don't get that. So making it transparent. Totally suitable.
It makes sense. Yeah. Absolutely. It makes sense.
The fuel gauge, obviously, same thing. And what other changes have they made to GT Sport over the years?
Plenty.
More than a few, but
plenty.
the point is, the next couple of weeks, we're all going to be guinea pigs. We just have to
yeah.
play the hell out of the game, and
there'll probably be quite a significant update at the end of the first month, I imagine.
The day one update. I mean, that'll be the actual day one update.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I think we'll sum up. Biggest takeaways, I think, for me is the tuning and the dynamic weather, like how that's going to work in competition. That's going to be my biggest thing I'm going to be looking for when the game comes out, because I'll be absolutely interested to see how they implement both of those. Like I said before, it would be cool to have a separate sport garage where all that wasn't a worry. I'm a bar of weather, obviously, but to do with the cars. But yeah, that's going to be my biggest takeaway, I think.
You can tell we're focused on sport mode, and the campaign is just an added bonus to us. So.
Yeah.
You've just reminded me of something else. I think we can talk about it for 5 minutes. Daily races. Okay. From what we've seen at the moment, there's still going to be 3 daily races. Like the early reviews have daily race A, B, and C, as we did. I really strongly believe there needs to be 2 more, a race D and a race E. So the race D is maybe a 40-minute race, and then a race E is maybe an hour. And that I think definitely an hour-long race for a casual player is not going to be attractive, but there are going to be a group of players that want to do an hour-long race, and then maybe the entry period for that could be every hour and a half or every 2 hours.
I'd say more like it's an hour turnaround. Every entry period is an hour apart, and it's like a 45-50-minute race.
Well,
that's close enough.
That was sort of my race D, whereas the race E could be the proper endurance.
Well, race C is only 20 minutes long at the moment.
Yeah, that's
it's
what I mean.
A lot shorter.
Yeah.
So they either need to make race C longer like it was in sport, or they need to, like you're saying, implement a D and an E.
Yeah, or even just one extra race where it's a bit longer, because, race A, what we normally see, race A is some little novelty combo with a road car. It's normally one mate, not that exciting, not many people join.
Very short, easy to learn track for your
exactly.
Who are just starting out.
And we see race B is normally a little bit of a larger caliber. You normally see a race car there. It's 8 minutes long. Really good to just grind out some daily race Bs. You don't have to worry about strategy or whatever. That's good. Race C, strategy comes into it, but it's often a toss-up between a one-stop and a no-stop, so you can still no-stop the one race where you actually have the opportunity for strategy to come into play, whereas I think your race D could add the question between a one-stop and a two-stop, and your race E, could be more leaning towards a three-stop, So, and then the race E can be an endurance style race, like maybe there's a time, like it's a timed race. Instead
timed
of
race would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Like do a 30-minute race instead of a 10-lap race. I don't know how many players you would get, because obviously daily race A, B, C, there's few enough of them that any given race there's always going to be, plenty of drivers, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Maybe they need to do a weekly race and make that your hour, 2 hour long race.
Okay.
Because the amount of server, the amount of effort it takes to put on races continually like that, and if it's going to have I'm an endurance racer. I do 2-hour races, 24-hour races for fun, but from a gaming side, there's not going to be that many people that want to do that sort of thing. So maybe they need to make them less frequent, but have have a weekly race or something, so that guys like yourself that want that have something to look forward to. But it's not manufacturers, but it's not nations, it's not counting.
It's just a daily race. It's just a daily race.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
That's even just to test the waters, just add one more race and it's slightly longer. Instead of a 20-minute race, it's a 35-40. Because I think people will do it.
They've got good reason to add more races too.
Oh, yeah.
They've got good reasons to add more races because they're going to have a big increase in their player base now.
Yeah.
They're going to have so many more. A lot of these new players will spend a lot of time in the campaign and no time in the online mode, but they're going to get more players than they already have, and they already have plenty in a 5-year-old game. So there's the online is going to have a very large population of drivers, there's plenty of opportunity for them to add a race or increase a race span and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, awesome. those are my big takeaways. Is I think it's probably echoed by you too. The sport mode is going to be really kind of crucial to see how the sport mode goes, because as it stands now, it looks like there's a couple of reservations there, but I'm sure there's just going to be an adjustment period. We'll get used to whatever they're giving us, and I think once we flesh out sort of how the game works and what you have to do, it'll be as equally as fun as it was in GT Sport.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out.
There'll definitely be that grace period where no championships, no online, no live events, just play the game.
Just play the game as intended.
Enjoy, enjoy, and then 6, 8, hey, I wouldn't even be angry if it was a full year, because realistically, down the line, you guys have played the game, great, you've enjoyed it, that's awesome. All right, now let's get into some competition. Now let's see who's the fastest. That.
And I mean, sort of going off that, like realistically, how long is the life cycle of GT7 going to be with the level of detail in the game? I think it could quite easily be a 5-year life cycle.
I think it should be 5. I think it should be 5. And don't forget the support they're going to add to it. The car list is going to expand. The track list is going to expand. It's going to get bigger and better. They could go a lot further than 5 years, I think. I don't think they will. I think they'll stick to 5 years at most, because the opportunity to sell a whole lot of copies of a game and make a lot of money is, you don't want to let that get away from you if you can afford to do that every 5 years. So
I think Gran Turismo 7 Kaz has also definitely displayed his passion. He's very passionate about this one. So I think we're going to get a lot more support, a lot better support, and a lot, like I say, just in general, it's just going to last longer. So
and Sophie will come too.
Yeah,
Sophie, that's right.
We haven't even talked about Sophie. We have to say that in another episode.
Yeah,
we'll do an episode on Sophie.
Awesome.
All right, well, that's my thoughts done. Do we have any lasting thoughts?
Subscribe to Smokescreen.
Hey, I can agree with that.
Subscribe to the Trackside Lounge.
True. I'm going to make that channel.
Subscribe to the Trackside Lounge.
Yeah.
That's where this is going to go, right?
That's where.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
No worries.
We need a catchphrase to sign us off.
Yeah. To be continued, possibly.
All right. I'll just edit this bit together at the end. We'll come up with. All right. Well, that's going to Let's try that again. Well, that's going to just about wrap up this episode of the Trackside Lounge today. I thank you, every single person, for making it this far to the end here. It's been talking here for 2 hours, so anyone that's lasted till the end, very big pat on the back and well done, and a massive thank you to you. We'll see where this goes in the future. I think this can potentially be a good addition to this little oceanic sim racing community we've got going on here, especially with GT7 and a lot of topics we can cover. But as for this one, I think it's just going to be looking forward to GT7 tomorrow. But those are our thoughts about it. So I'd like to extend a very big thank you to Nismo. Round of applause for Nismo. Yeah. And a big thank you to Atom as well. Round of applause to Atom. And, of course, myself. I'll give myself a round of applause, I guess, too. Yeah. Thank you. But that's going to wrap up this video or podcast today. That is going to be it from us. So do hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more podcasts from us, including guests. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's at the end of this one today, and that means that is it from us. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.
There we go.